Hola, mi amigos. Welcome to the Mountains High Five. President Obama is on assignment. I'm your fill-in host, Frank Martin. For the next 15 minutes, my team and I will catch you up on all that is in the Mountain West. Here at the High Five, we take all that has aired on the Mountain and our sister networks over the past week, select the top 5 stories, then present them to you. So let's get to it. High Five, here we go. On today's menu, a little up and Adam. We'll talk conference realignment. It is not a victimless crime, people. Then we'll check in on the Rams across America. That's David Anderson's plight to land with a Denver Bronco roster spot. We'll also have a Q&A with Reggie Rivers, mountain analyst, genius, man about town. Number 4, Stephen Strasburg strikes back. That's right, a Stephen Strasburg rehab update. And finally, Cowboys and Batman. Our Hollywood mashup involves football and baseball. We've got 5 stories to get to, folks, so let's get to it. This week's top story, the modern proliferation of food poisoning cases against wealthy homeowners. Just kidding. It's actually something a little more complex. Last week, reports had Texas A&M jumping from the Big 12 Conference to the Southeastern Conference. Now, if you ask me, there are many reasons the Aggies want to leave the Big 12. Most of them have nothing to do with me and everything to do with the University of Texas. However, A&M's defection would leave another gaping hole in the Big 12. That would affect me, and here's why. You see, the Big 12 would need to add someone. They would want a school with good athletics. But what that really means is a good football team, and we really know who they're talking about, folks, right? We all know they're talking about the Air Force Academy. Now, the Air Force Academy was the topic on Around the Mountain earlier this week.
Brian, do you see Air Force in the Big 12 as a good fit?
You know, I don't, and I'll be honest with you. And I love Air Force. I love what Troy Calhoun's done there. I just think, to me, the quick fix for the Big 12 is going to be BYU. It feels like that's where they're leaning. It feels like BYU would like to be in the Big 12. Can the Big 12 make it work as far as scheduling concerns from BYU? Obviously, we know the relationship that BYU has with those 4 letters out there. The Big 12 has that relationship with those 4 letters. To me, that's the obvious choice, and it's a quick fix. If it's just A&M that leaves, and they just have to fill the one hole. If there's a second hole, then I think Air Force obviously does come into the mix.
Around the Mountain can be seen every Wednesday evening on the network. Join Bill Dolman next week. He will have guests Brian Roth and Van Tate. Okay, the National Football League returned last weekend. While the first week of preseason is kind of boring for most, other people like to DVR every single preseason game. Shouldn't have said that, probably. Okay, well, watching the 4th quarter of the Denver at Dallas game, I did notice that former Colorado State Ram David Anderson is now playing for the Broncos. Maurice Payton was able to catch up with Anderson on Mountain West Football Saturday.
Being cut by the Texans and signed by the Broncos is just another opportunity for Anderson to prove himself, something he's done his entire career.
I never had a chip on my shoulder. I just came out and played football. I was always been told I'm too short or too whatever, and I've just been a good football player. And if you're a good football player, you play good football and you keep going, and that's just kind of direction it's always been.
Football isn't Anderson's only gift. He's been known to make a few people laugh, too.
I've since gotten to know David, since I've come back, and he's funny. He's a funny guy, but a good football player, and although I didn't coach him, I sure enjoyed watching him.
And now his Colorado State fans can watch him a little bit closer to Fort Collins.
How come football players' hair always looks great when they come out of a helmet? Mine always have a hat head. It's terrible. All right, you're looking at Anderson's career numbers. They say he's a possession receiver. Then again, they said that about Steve Largent. Denver hosts the Buffalo Bills on Friday night. Check your local listings. And speaking of checking local listings, you can catch Mountain West Football Saturday, every Saturday, throughout the football season on the network. This week, the guys talk about San Diego State protecting Ronnie Hillman from contact in the preseason. Should be interesting. Speaking of interesting, I hope this is our first break. No, not that. It's the game before the first break. How about a little Jeopardy, folks? We talked about conference expansion and David Anderson's quest to play in the NFL. So today's question is a combination of both. NFL expansion. That's right, your answer. Despite not having a winning record in their first 2 decades of play, this football team, known for their paper bag wearing fans, won Super Bowl 44 on February 7th, 2010.